Welcome to another video. It's Mr. Swercheski here. We're going to go over lesson 4.6. I'm going to start with the back. And let's do the notes if you missed them in class. Okay. So we talked about if two triangles are congruent, then all corresponding parts are congruent. That means you will have three sets of congruent sides and three sets of congruent angles. Now there's a fancy way to say that is often used in geometry books, and it's corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And we can abbreviate that if we're ever doing a proof and we don't want to write that whole reason out. We abbreviate it C, P, C, T, C. And then so sometimes we're going to have to determine whether whether triangles are congruent by using definitions and properties that we already have talked about. So we can say to determine if to determine congruent parts, use definitions. Alright, sorry about that. Had to pause the video real quick. So to determine congruent parts, we can use definitions and properties. About triangles. And to give you a quick example, so you can use vertical angles are congruent, the definition of bisectors, midpoints, etc. And then lastly, real quick, this is kind of an obvious thing, but it's important to reaffirm it, I guess, is that there is something called a reflexive property. And that says that any angle or side is congruent to itself. So like a 90-degree angle is congruent to a 90-degree angle, or it's congruent to itself. Okay, so let's go through some of these problems and then we will be done with this video. So number one, The question says the two triangles are congruent. Find the measure of EF and the measure of angle D. So we know that the triangles are congruent. So if I look at this picture, angle J would be the same as angle E, so that would be 130 degrees. And then EF would be 7 and DE would be 2.5. I'm getting these values from the other triangle. I know because the triangles are congruent, they will have corresponding parts being congruent. So this angle corresponds with J, DE corresponds with IJ, and so on. And then I need to find this angle D. Well, angle K that I know is 18 degrees will correspond with angle F. And now I can subtract 130 plus 18 from 180. So 180 minus 148 is going to give me 32 degrees. So the measure of angle D will equal 32 degrees. And EF is 7. So we are done. Oh, no, we're not. Sorry about that. So it says, then write a congruence statement. So again, this is where the order matters. So we would say something like triangle DEF is congruent to triangle. So I went DEF. I would need to do the right order. So it would be IJK. No, I am not just kidding. Hilarious. Okay, number 2 says use the information given to mark the congruent parts. So the first thing I see here is angle ABC, so that would be this angle is congruent to angle GHC right here. So that one is marked. The next one, AC is congruent to GC. So AC is congruent to GC. I'm adding those markings as I go along. And then the last one, I have to know what a midpoint means. A midpoint is exactly in the middle. So if C is the midpoint of segment BH, that means that BC needs to be congruent to CH. And we are done. Last one. So this is a portion of a proof. You need to, for each statement, write the reason on the line underneath. If something is already marked in the diagram, write given. So first statement is the measure of ILK is congruent to the measure of BLA. So that was not marked, so I need to come up with a reason for that statement. You'll notice that those two angles are vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. KL is congruent to AL. Well, that's given. And then lastly, IKL is this angle here, is congruent to BAL, which is right here. You'll notice this is an important detail. It is telling us that IK is parallel to AB. Because those lines are parallel, this line AK is acting as a transversal. So because of that, we know that these angles are congruent because they are alternate interior angles are congruent. So we need to be remembering these properties that we've already learned this year. I'm going to stop the video there, and I'll see you in the next one.